We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generations.
Bringing news just for you. It's Monday, June 24th here in Seoul. I'm Song Jin, and this is News Generation. Today, we're joined by Cheska Dainha.
Happy Monday, everyone!
Happy Monday! And Woo Hee-jun.
Happy Monday!
Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. Now, as usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online over the past 24 hours. Here in Korea, where almost 87% of the population have been subscribing to at least one streaming service over the past year, we're seeing an increase in account sharing among users, with most streaming platforms raising their monthly subscription fees. Data from Statistics Korea shows that the average household spending on these services soared 24% from 18,000 Korean won a month, which is around $13 in 2019, to 23,000 won or $16.50 in 2023. Because of this, according to the Korea Creative Content Agency, 70% of users in the country are sharing accounts. The problem is that services such as Netflix and Disney Plus prohibit the sharing of accounts, leading users to find risky ways to share their accounts. This includes sharing their ID and password with strangers, raising concerns about increased exposure to crimes. Moving on, staying in Korea, the country has seen an increase in the NEET tribe, that is short for not in employment, education, or training, which refers to the younger generation taking a voluntary break from work. Data from Statistics Korea on Sunday showed that the number of people aged 15 to 29 who identified as part of the NEET tribe was 398,000 in May, up 13,000 from the previous year. This figure was the second highest for the month of May since data began being compiled in 2003. The agency says that while many members of the NEET tribe are passionate about finding a job and include those who are taking a break to transition between jobs, there are also those who have lost enthusiasm for job searching due to repeated failures in finding a suitable position or who have been on a break for an extended period of time. Now, finally, it looks like the era of many a little makes a mickle is over. Data from Korea's 5 major banks on Sunday show that the amount of their regular savings stood at 33.4 trillion Korean won, which is around $23.7 US. This is almost 20% less than the amount at the end of 2020. During that period, the 5 domestic banks saw their other assets grow but experienced a decrease in savings. The banking sector attributes this decline to a growing disinterest in regular savings among those in their 20s and 30s who used to be major consumers of these saving plans. One reason for this shift is the younger generation's preference for stock investments, which can offer higher profits compared to savings accounts if they are successful. Now, here in the studio, as part of the younger generation, are you involved in a savings plan? And please explain the reason why you've joined this plan or not.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't think that I'm actively participating in the saving plan when you compare with the other people, because of course I'm interested in the various products such as the stock, or I also feel the need for the saving. But I'm still more interested in doing and trying and having like what I want.
Spending,
yeah. So I want consumption than saving at the moment, to be honest with you. Of course, I will be more actively in participating in this saving plan when the time comes for me.
I see. And I want to ask, this is like a short question, but why did you start investing in stocks?
Well, my friend asked me to do it because she knows that I don't really like having any products and I don't really have actively participating in the savings. So she asked me to, why don't you like give it a shot? So that's why I started just one stock and except that I don't have anything though.
Right, so the fact that Hee-jun started investing in stocks after looking at her friend kind of shows how the younger generation is shifting or more interested in stocks these days.
Yeah.
Now, how about you, Cheska?
I think I'm one of those that actually do have a savings.
Like me?
Yeah! But I think I can also speak for the reality of our generation in terms of savings. I think, as Hee-jun mentioned, a lot of our generation is becoming independent very quickly. So they're looking for ways to make quick money. And I think stock option is obviously one of the ways to do it, right? So I think they turn to stock rather than a saving whose interest obviously is very slow and steady. But I think another reason is, and I'm speaking for myself, I think a lot of our generation live by themselves very quickly. So we're not as dependent on the parents' generation as much. Meaning, again, speaking from my experience, when you live alone, the expenditures and the consumptions just rack up very, very quickly.
It makes it really hard for you.
Exactly, just paying for the rent. There's a saying that every breath costs a penny.
Yeah.
when you live by yourself. So I've had saving accounts, but as we mentioned, Eugene, I had to break a couple of them to pay for like medical bills or pay for like rentals or even travels. And I think especially after COVID-19, a lot of people are focusing more on like day to day or trying to use the money to enjoy their lives a bit more. And also I think there are populations like myself who can't possibly save up too much because they have to pay for the living situations by themselves.
Right, especially for single person households.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Well, because I currently live with my parents, I think that's the reason why I'm a part of the savings plan.
Yes.
So, Mom, please take care of me for a longer amount of time.
Mom, I miss you.
I need you.
And that was our news feed for this Monday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. It's not news gen if we don't talk about the latest dating and marriage trends among the younger generation. So for today, we're going to talk about that. Let's first take a look at the screen. We've all imagined our dream wedding at least once. While many used to picture ballroom-style weddings with fancy halls, traditional white dresses, and tuxedos as the ideal wedding, this trend is changing. What are some new and unique wedding trends and cultures among the younger generation? Right, so this is Monday, so we're back in the studio after the weekend. So in Korea, most weddings take place between Friday evening and Sunday, as it's easier for those who work on weekdays, just like us, to attend these ceremonies. So I want to ask you first, Heejun, did you attend a wedding ceremony last weekend or recently? And are there any unique traits you found about these ceremonies?
Absolutely. Well, I actually went to my friend's wedding last week. Well, but I felt weird though, because I just feel like the time had come for to think of the marriage and, you know, but which is, I always feel like distance to me about when we think about the wedding and marriage. But anyways, most wedding these days are known to be like factory system. In other words, they seem to be taking place similarly and also proceed quickly and conducted more formally. But my friend's wedding was a little special and unique. And it was fun because the bride who friends of mine, she entered first. And also sang the wedding song in the person.
Because usually the groom enters first,
Exactly,
right?
that's why I surprised. And also the father of the bride and grooms enters together with dancing in the opening.
So fun.
I know. And even if it's a factory system, the bride and grooms are seeking to find out their more individuality and more special events as well. And for example, the bride and grooms are enter while dancing, and bride and grooms parents are singing at the wedding, or they also new events are added to their wedding ceremony.
So I think that especially among the younger generation, we're adding a bit more color and what we like to these factory style weddings, which refers to like how most weddings here in Korea taking place are kind of similar in format because the groom enters first and then the bride and the father, right? Now to you, Cheska, did you also experience any unique weddings recently?
You know, I think I've been quite blessed in that I've had a lot of European friends and also Korean friends who are quite unique. So I have been to quite interesting weddings, even here in South Korea. So one, I've also been to a Catholic church wedding, which is obviously very ritualistic. But the other one, I had a friend who was was marrying a Korean man, and they had this incredible after party where the mother of the bride danced with us all night, and we were just enjoying the party. You know, the after party was just so much fun, and the bride specifically asked us, all the guests, to not wear blend colors. She said, please wear like a vibrant, colorful outfit. And then another thing is, my friend recently got married, and as Heejun mentioned, for my friend, the bride and the groom entered together, but they wore a matrix sunglasses and started dancing, almost like a wiggle, and then started entering the Virgin Road together with the music. So I thought it was incredibly unique.
Right, so these are some of the fun and like special extraordinary ways that our generation is spicing up the wedding ceremonies. Now I want to point out that this is not new, but a unique tradition related to weddings in Korea is the 축의금 culture, which is guests giving gift money to the bride, groom, or sometimes both to congratulate them. Now these days, with prices rising and also many people tightening their belts, the amount of 축의금 to give at each wedding is a hot topic. So So if you don't mind, could you please tell me and our viewers how much
It is a very hot topic.
Yeah, why not? At the wedding last weekend, I personally gave 200,000 to my friend as a congrats money because she was my closest friend. And there are a lot of issues related these 축의금, which is congrats money these days. In the past, everyone got married.
Right.
You know, so this was the culture of affection. So, but recently, as the number of the people who do not get married has increased, so conflict have begun to raise. So, moreover, there is the conflicts over the whether congrats monies should be given if you don't go to wedding, or in case of small wedding or the personal wedding with the no guest. So, but before in the past, originally the people should invite them to treat them with the meals and get to receive the congrats money. But these cultures are changing right now.
Right. And Cheska, I want to toss the question to you. Why do you think that this 축의금 culture is changing? And I think that especially our generation is really thinking about it a lot, about when it comes to how much 축의금 or congratulatory money you are planning to give at a wedding ceremony.
Absolutely. And I wish I had a friend like Heejun too. I think you're such an amazing friend. But I think one of the questions that comes up in our generation is we have the mobile invitation. And we also discussed about how much should we pay if we get a mobile invitation versus if a friend treats you to a meal versus if you're actually attending the wedding or you're virtually just there.
So complicated.
There's so many scenarios as opposed to, as we talked about in the older generation, this was a very big ceremony that all the family guests and friends would attend to celebrate as like a family event, right? So during the research, I found that according to a research done by Korea Gallup, did you know that about 30 years ago, so back in 1994, the average amount of the congratulatory money is 1/10 of what we pay.
Really?
So that's about 28,000 won. And today, as Heejun said, it's about 10 times that right now, going up to as high as 200,000.
Wow.
And it mostly obviously has to do with inflation for obvious reasons. But when you rent out hotels and pay for catering services, the cost can rack up pretty quickly. So if we take a look at the screen, when asked the question, should we abide by the socially accepted amount for paying for social events, almost 80% of the millennials and Gen Z said yes. Whereas if you look at those in their 40s, about a little less than 70% said yes. So I think in one way, these surveys can be interpreted as young people being a little bit more sensitive and mindful about how much they have to pay for these social events and try to stick to an agreed amount.
Right. So this 축의금 culture or wedding gift money is a unique culture here, wedding culture here in Korea. Now let's kind of expand our discussion and talk about some of the latest and most attention-grabbing wedding trends among our generation, not only here in Korea, but around the world.
Well, personally, I think the most differences is black dress. Recently, as more people are willing to wear what they want, which is the black dress, there seems to be a crush on it. And in the particular, the big differences seems to be are not height or just delay what they want, such as planning the wedding the way they want and the wedding dress that they want and having events they want to. So not like without the concerning and looking at the other people's eyes or following traditions as well. Well, also they do not follow the dress at the high cost anymore, but they buy or wear the dress about like a 100,000 won by direct overseas purchase. And as self-wedding and small wedding increase, these cultures are also increased as well. There are also more no-wedding people who want to get married, but they don't want to having the wedding ceremony. But it is because the cost of the money and has increased so much, and there are more MZs are trying to find some substances. And also one of the funny thing that the guest agency services are also becoming on the rise.
Wow,
What is a guest agency service?
It's like if the person who do not have like many peoples around, or the person who having a little difficulty with the socializing, so they apply for these guest agency services to invite more guests, especially the people they do not know.
I think
They
that's
just come here like being asking us. Well, it's more specializing in these days too, and it still seems to be an uncomfortable reality, you know, due to the eyes of the other people,
Exactly.
wedding culture. Well, I think that is still difficult to avoid at the moment.
Right. So the examples Heejun mentioned kind of shows how the younger generation is now more into like actually directing or creating a wedding ceremony that caters to their demands.
Yeah.
When in the past, it was more about like a family thing, thinking about where your parents want.
Right.
Now, are there any more examples that you would like to add, Cheska?
Yeah, and it makes a little bit more sense because as we discussed previously, our parents' generation would go to these social events and would pay for the socially agreed amount. And they also want this to have their own daughter or son's wedding to be able to kind of get those money in return, right? But nowadays, because MZers, as you mentioned, are trying to take more direct control over the wedding ceremonies, a lot of the thing that they do is they actually started getting rid of the officiating. So back in the days, they would have like an official officiator who would run the entire wedding ceremony. But now it's either the parents or like the friends that would come up and give like testimonials about how much they love their friends and wish them a happy wedding. And another thing is the wedding photos. I think all of us are familiar with it, but if you remember, our parents would have these very like factory produced, very
princess-like,
exactly, like somewhere in the gardens, like yay,
with a flower,
with the huge dresses. But now people are actually hiring like photographers or even doing it by themselves. Yeah, to do a very quick, streamlined, and almost like very cost-effective wedding photos as well. And as we mentioned, one of the things that we also do is there's a saying that goes, the shorter the wedding, the longer the after party. So now that because people feel like they want to own the wedding ceremony, they actually put a lot of effort into actually enjoying the after party with their friends and their guests.
Right, so these are some of the latest or unique wedding trends that we're observing here in Korea and around the world. Now, to find out more about the latest wedding trends, we also asked our viewers to share what's trending in their country. And here's what 3 of them had to say. Now, if we look at the comments, Brodo Kiba says the Naga tribes in India among young people have unique wedding cultures that blend their traditions with local influences. One is the elaborate use of traditional attire, including intricate hand-woven textiles and jewelry. Tasmia says in Bangladesh, the guests wear certain color outfits to signify which of the guests belongs to the bride and which to the groom. For example, green for the bride's guests and purple for the groom's guests. However, this is only for the engagement event or the turmeric event. Leon says MZ couples in Singapore are opting for unique themes for their wedding that reflect their personalities, and they now have interactive online guest books or photo booths that allow guests to leave well wishes in a more modern format. For guests who can't attend, MZ couples might live stream the ceremony. Right, so after reading the comments and based on our discussion, we're talking about the new and emerging wedding cultures among the younger generation around the world. However, there are still those who prefer a more traditional style wedding. So after this break, we'll invite a Korean Gen Z who chose a traditional wedding ceremony to join our discussion. Stay tuned. So today we're joined by Kim Min-jin, a Korean Gen Z who chose a traditional Korean wedding ceremony for her big day. Welcome, Min-jin, to the show.
Hello, I'm Min-jin, and thank you for having me here.
Great, it's lovely to have you. So let's get straight into the question. So Min-jin, is there a particular reason why you chose a traditional Korean wedding ceremony?
So you might find having traditional style of wedding ceremony as a Gen Z is little of the way. However, I found it more trendy and more hip as not everyone is doing that way. I first learned about this wedding ceremony when I watched it on YouTube as a recommended video. And as soon as I saw it, I found it really beautiful with hanbok and all the Korean style decorations. Yeah, that's me entering. And I also love the meanings behind the traditional Korean wedding ceremony procedures, such as groom handing over a wooden goose to the bride's parents, which represents that he is promising his love will not change and they will live happily ever after.
It's an absolutely beautiful ceremony. In your experience, what are one aspect of the wedding ceremony that you prioritize and find important?
So, of course, wedding is a really big event in our life, and there were so many things to take care of. But for me, I considered the most important thing is to have the marrying couple to be happy and then satisfied with how the wedding is going, because in the end, it's their choice in their life, and mostly every couple has once in their life event. So I wish this should be their event, not just to show to other and satisfy the guests.
Well, as we mentioned in our discussion earlier, we're seeing a lot of changes in wedding cultures and trends. So is there any changes you would like to see in the Korean wedding cultures?
So in the same line with what I consider the most, I think more people should be firstly inspired to have different style of wedding, not just the factory type, and also can have more courage to do on their own way, and also the guests can have more of an open mind to experience different kind of weddings with more of celebrating the married couple.
Great. Some very great answers. Thank you, Minjin, so much for your time today. This might sound a bit late, but congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Now, I think Minjin pointed out to very strong points, but last but not least, very briefly, looking ahead, what kind of new trends do you think we get to see in Korea's wedding culture?
Well, I think the wedding ceremony itself will be more simplified and diverse, absolutely. And since the wedding is also the culture, I think it will be inevitably to see how suit to this current situation for the MZ.
Right. Now, how about you, Cheska?
I definitely do not see this as a trend. I think this more as a shift in the culture because as we discussed, a lot of people are choosing to either live alone or trying to find a life that is more catered to their own lifestyle. So I do believe that a lot of wedding will be either streamlined or very specialized and customized to each individual.
Well, I think that as long as the two who are getting married are happy and satisfied, I think that's the most important thing. That's it, because as Minjin mentioned, it's a once-in-a-lifetime event for those who are getting married. Now, that's all the time we have for today, but NewsGen is here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks today to Cheska
This is
Daeha
always mine. Thank you.
and Weejin.
Happy Monday!
And thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. We are News Generation.